This is the GL Racing P1M body that I've been using lately. I bought it for 16 bucks. The reason why I started running this body is because it's cheap, $16, and I needed to practice on putting a post holes using the magnetic post from Bionic RC, and $16.50 versus 20 something dollars on the other brand bodies. So I figured it's a cheaper body to try, and also good body to test because it's the P1M. I like the McLaren body in the McLaren hard body for the MR04 Kyosho Mini Z cars. So I figured it should also be good, and it is, because I noticed that there's more mid-corner steering, and on the sweeper, if you pull the throttle to full throttle, somehow the back end kind of not steps out, but rotates a little bit, and now you make a even tighter line. So if the sweeper is going this way, right, let's say this is the corner and you're going this way, and then under throttle the car starts to push. When you pull the throttle full throttle, the back end rotates a little bit and makes a tighter line. Okay, it's not something I can do every lap, okay, but I just noticed that it can do that. The back end rotates a little bit, but not over rotates. Okay, also depends on the tires that you're running. If you're running Marka 15 slicks, the back end would over rotate. If you're running Marka 15 radials that still has the radials up to almost slicks, you still have traction in the back. But once it starts to fade, the back end starts to turn into slicks, the rear end just won't have that forward traction or cornering traction. The back end would step out. So with this body, you have to be paying attention to the rear tires. With the other body that I have, which is the Mako GT, I don't have to pay too much attention in the back. Even with the Marka 15 slicks, the back end is still planted, okay? It rarely would step out. The rear end would step out. This is on a ball diff, okay? I'm not using it on my gear diff, especially not with this body. So this body has more mid-corner steering, and on high-speed sweeper, this one can hold a tighter line. Now, when I bought this body, I did not use the stock spoiler. I tried it, but the back end was too loose with the stock spoiler, because the stock spoiler is small. The spoiler that I have here is the P1M Racing Lexan spoiler, and this is the GL Racing stock spoiler. And the way this stock spoiler is mounted is not even hanging back here, it's towards the front. So the bumper is more exposed than the spoiler, and that made this car very light in the rear end. The back end, inside the chicane, under throttle, the back end would just step out. But then once I put the spoiler, the P1M Racing spoiler in the back, as well as the Mako GT spoiler in the back, and have it hanging, the back end is more planted. It's not stepping out at all anymore. However, like I said, you got to keep an eye out on that rear tires. Okay, it wants new tires all the time. So when you get to a point that the back end is stepping out and you still want to drive, you know, you're just driving around for practice, you probably want to put a weight 2 grams to 3 grams back here. If you don't have the post holes for the, like this car, this is a Gen 2 RX 28 SE. This is also a Gen 2, but I have that the post right there, hole for the weight, or the mass damper weight. You can use the mass damper weight if you have this pod, or just a lead tape 2 grams you put back here, just to keep the back end from stepping out inside the chicane. Okay, so $16.50 for this body, 2 grams lighter than the body that I use, and I've been using it for almost 2 months. There's no cracks yet. You do need to replace the spoiler with your old spoiler, or buy a new one from P1M Racing, but I would just use an old spoiler like this one from my Mako. I just took it off and put it here. You don't need to buy a new one. The only reason why I have this here, because this came from my Jomarima body that I never used. But if you have, obviously if you have to buy a spoiler, then it's gonna cost more, right? So just get the body and use the existing spoiler that you already have, and make sure it's hanging in the back to keep the back end planted a little bit, but not too planted to where it feels like it understeers mid corner. Actually, I didn't notice that I have this understeer mid corner until I put this body on. When I put this body on, all of a sudden I have tighter lines mid corner, and I can hold the lines better on the sweeper under throttle. Okay, if you have the high speed sweeper after the straightaway, this body is working really good with that. But I've only run it in the 3500 motor. The 3500 motor that we have is running open gear, so this is 13 tooth and 53 spur, and it's 0.2 to 0.3 slower than mod, so it's a fast 3500. We're not running the 10 tooth pinion here. The 10 tooth pinion is probably slower than my 2500 car. This 3500 is fast. It's like a, I also use it in our mod class. Okay, it's fast. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this body if you're looking into something different that's cheap. You know, you don't have to spend a lot, and you already have an existing spoiler that you can just put on here. 1650, man, you can't go wrong. You know, and it's 2 grams lighter than the thicker body. Okay, this is thinner, but so far there's no crack. Okay. Anyways, again, this is the GL Racing P1M body. It's been out for a couple years now. And I am using it in my 3500 car. I haven't tried it in my mod because my mod car is working good with the existing body. So I'm not going to mess around with this car. Right now, I don't really run mod that often. Mostly 25 and 35. So it's going to stay in my 3500 for now. And just use my Mako GT in the mod class. Okay, that's it for this video. Thanks.